Are some types of bike infrastructure better than others? That's what we're going to find out today. Hey everyone, I'm Tom and this is Shifter, a channel about urban cycling, bike commuting, and the ways we get around our cities. Here in my city of Calgary, Alberta, Canada, we've had enough bike infrastructure over the years that I've seen what I could call an evolution. And then I got a note from a Shifter viewer here in Calgary named Alastair Pollock, who dropped me a note that sort of laid it all out exactly in a way I liked. So if you like this video, please send your thanks to Alastair, because he certainly has mine, because I'm totally ripping off his idea for this video. So I'm here in Alastair's neighborhood, and I'm going to do something similar to what he told me about recently. Down that way a bit is a ice cream shop, and there are, interestingly, 3 different ways of getting to the ice cream shop, and I'm going to test all 3 of them. One is on side streets, one is on multi-use pathways, and one is on these brand new, shiny, spanking new cycle tracks, which is basically a bike lane that's separated from cars and pedestrians. Now, I think each of these routes is interesting in its own way, but I'm going to measure them on 4 different scales. I'm going to measure them for distance, for speed, how long it takes me to get there, for overall sort of pleasantness, and then something that we can call maybe livable city qualities. The whole point of getting more people on bikes is not to get more people on bikes, it's to make your city better. And this whole channel actually is about improving our cities. And if a bike lane is not making your city better in terms of livability, then what's the point? So we're going to measure everything on livability. Okay, we're going to start with the first route, which is probably the laziest urban planning route you can imagine. And that is at these side streets, as if no bike infrastructure existed. And this is not like a theoretical thing. We often hear anti-bike politicians say things like, well, I'm an avid cyclist, but they always say I'm an avid cyclist, but just before they're about to say something that's anti-cycling. So what they'll say is, I'm an avid cyclist, but why do bikes have to go on the main routes? Can't we just push them off to the side routes so they're out of the way of traffic? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take the side routes and let's go. Okay, off we go. You can see I've got my phone set up on my bike there. That's displaying at the top the time, and the middle is my speed, and the bottom is my distance, just in case you're curious about following along. I'm not going to show every part of this ride, just the interesting bits. So yeah, here we go. Yes, I know this is supposed to be only on side roads, but there's one bridge across the river here, and it happens to have a bike lane, so I'm taking it in this case. But just on the other side of this bridge, I will turn off and stick to the side roads. They're a left turn in traffic. That's probably the hardest thing you'll ever do on a bike in a city. Okay, here we go on these side roads. As you can see, there's bike lanes everywhere in this neighborhood, so I'm just going to ignore that one and turn off onto this side road here. So this is running parallel to the actual route I want to go. So just a block over is the street with all of the businesses and things to do, but you know, I'm a cyclist, so I need to avoid those and go on the side route here. So as you can see, this route seems pretty easy, right? There's not a lot of traffic. It's pretty quiet. A few parked cars, but there's lots of space on the streets. It's pretty sleepy, and I guess if you're talking about safety, that's a good thing, because I'm not worried about getting run over by a car. But there's a flip side to that, in that there's just not a lot to see and do on this route. It's just running through a residential neighborhood. There are businesses on the main street that I could be visiting on my way, but I just can't because I'm off here on the side route. So, you know, that's a bit of a flip side. I think that's one of the risks of shunting cyclists to the side routes, is that you keep them away from the businesses, you keep them away from the places they want to go and the destinations. So yeah, it's not perfect, but here I am. So also with a lack of bike routes, we've got this situation where from a quiet route, I need to get onto this busier collector road and then just sort of skirt over to a side route too. So, you know, this is clearly not that amenable to cyclists, even though it's labeled as a bike route. There are those blue cycling signs, which are basically nothing. And the consequence of that is I kind of have to mix with cars, and it doesn't feel that safe. And there's a lot of people out there who won't mix with cars. So that's kind of the trade-off. Oh, this is when I thought I was getting close to the ice cream shop. But then I realized, oh, I'm a block away. And so I'm turning around and heading back up a street. And at first I thought, oh, I made a navigation mistake. Maybe I should start over. But then I thought, no, having a navigation mistake is one of the consequences of being pushed off the main road. You don't really know where things are. So, you know, I could have done a better job, but also take that into account when I get to the end and we're measuring the speed and the time. It took a bit longer because I took a bit of a wrong turn here, but also taking wrong turns is going to happen when you're on a road where you can't see where anything good is. Yeah, more navigation woes, but I'm close here. And yeah, crossing the street here and then onto the sidewalk again when there's no bike routes. In theory, there are no bike routes on this route. That's what you have to do, onto the sidewalk. All right, we made it to the ice cream shop, and there you go. Not the most exciting ride, but an interesting way of getting somewhere, taking the side routes in this neighborhood. Okay, that was the route on the side roads, and here are the numbers. Distance, 2.1 kilometers. Time, 6 minutes, 39 seconds. For pleasantness, I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. And for livable city, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 10. The route was quiet, it was nice, it was easy. There were not a lot of moving cars, so I felt quite safe that way too. But it also wasn't very direct. I always had to sort of avoid the busy street. I mean, the busy street is where all of the good things are, and I was avoiding it. So it wasn't the easiest, most convenient way of getting there. You're disconnected from all of the action when you're shunted onto a side street. So it's not ideal, but it was safe and pleasant. And, you know, the ride was maybe a little bit boring. Not a lot of destinations, not a lot to go to. It was just some houses on a quiet street. So not terrible, but not bad. All right, here we go on multi-use pathway route to the same destination. Let's see how this differs from using the side roads. Let's go. Okay, we finally entered this multi-use pathway, which is great, but it's not actually taking me in the right direction. So as you'll see up here, I need to do a bit of a loop-de-loop to go under the bridge, but then onto the bridge and across the bridge. You'll see. Yeah, just a little note here. This looks like a horrible construction site right now, but what's happening is this bridge is being resurfaced, the deck is being resurfaced, and don't hold any points against it, the route for this. This is a great cycling pedestrian amenity, actually. It's an old rail bridge that's been converted into use only by pedestrians and cyclists. So it's great. It just happens to be being resurfaced at this moment. So it's a good thing, even if it doesn't look like it at the moment, and even if the construction route is pretty narrow. Okay, now I'm across the bridge and I'm sticking to this multi-use pathway. So I do this loop to go under the bridge again, and here's the multi-use pathway. It's a nice pathway, right? It's there's no cars, completely separated from cars. That's great. It is shared with pedestrians. That's why it's called a multi-use pathway. So I need to be aware of that, which is fine. But actually, it's taking me along the river here. It's through this really nice park that's full of picnickers, and if it hadn't just rained, it'd be really full of picnickers. But there's a few, and there's kids playing at the playground, and there's families out walking, and the sun is poked out after the rain. So it really is a lovely route. It's a really nice spot. So these are the joys of multi-use pathways, is you get moments like this of just pure pleasure, and I can actually enjoy it because there are no automobiles anywhere near me. But here is the downside of these multi-use pathways, is that they're mostly built for recreation. So, you know, the routes go through parks, they go through nice little green spaces like this. They're kind of lackadaisical routes, for lack of a better word. They take you not that directly. They're meant for nice Sunday drives. And so I'm pretty far away from my destination, and I seem to be getting no closer. I don't seem to be going in the right direction. It'll take me there eventually, but it's way out of the way, actually. It's not intended for transportation, definitely intended for recreation. Yeah, just for the record, this is a bit of a shared space between the pathway and a road, so it's a bit weird, but I'm going to still classify it as part of the multi-use pathway network. And befitting a multi-use recreational pathway, this is taking me through some nice recreational amenities. There's a football field here. There's some playing fields. There's a soccer pitch over to the right there. These are fans of the football game. So yeah, I mean, if you're up for playing some sports, this is the way to go. Okay, and that's kind of the end of the multi-use pathway. I mean, the pathway carries on, but it goes in a completely different direction than where I want to go. And so I'm back onto the streets here, really just making up some lost space. I need to get back onto that route where the ice cream shop is. And luckily, this has a painted bike lane. I don't love painted bike lanes, of course, but at least there's something on this road back to where I need to go. Yeah, this is the Trans-Canada Highway, so it's a really busy 4-lane road as it cuts through the city. So having to cross that busy road is not ideal. I just happened to catch the light there, so I went through fairly smoothly. And now I'm back onto a side road because I don't want to go on that main road, it's too busy. And so this multi-use pathway is long forgotten by this point. Now I'm just navigating city streets. And just scoot up here a half block and I've made it to my ice cream shop. So yeah, there you go. Oh, yep, keep that screen alive there, Tom. There's the ice cream shop and we made it on the multi-use pathway route. Okay, here are the numbers for the multi-use pathway route. Distance, 2.96 kilometers, so quite a bit farther than the other route. 8 minutes, 18 seconds, so quite a bit longer too. For pleasantness, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. And for a livable city scale, I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Overall, it was a nice, pleasant route. I mean, multi-use pathways are great because they keep you completely separated from vehicles. And usually they're built for recreation. So they take you through nice pathways. That was a beautiful park I went through right along the river, people picnicking. It was lovely, which is also the worst thing about them, and this is the problem with multi-use pathways, they're great for recreation, but not great for transportation. There's just not a lot to do. I mean, there were no destinations along that route unless you're going to the park for a picnic. And it was kind of disconnected from the transportation network. So it was a nice ride, but I actually ended up back on the road anyway to get to the ice cream shop because the pathway didn't take me there. So a little disconnected, not very direct, a bit circuitous to get where I need to go, but a pleasant ride. Okay, our final route, and this one is using the cycle tracks, which is what separated bike lanes are called in my city. This is a fairly new project, and so I'm pretty excited to see how they've done with these new cycle tracks. Let's go. Okay, here is the start of the cycle tracks. There you go. So you see what's been done here. It's sort of like a bike route separated from the roadway and also separated from the pedestrians. It's elevated a bit from the road, so there's definitely a sort of a barrier from car drivers, entering the space, and then there's a pretty good separation. There's a distance separation with the sidewalk, so it's a nice route. This path like this is on both sides. The cycle track is on the other side going in the other direction as well. So a unidirectional separated bike lane. Wow, this is quite the treat. So this is the important part here, I think, is that as you can see, this route takes me right along the main road here. And one of the things that Alastair said to me is like, he used to hate driving along this road because it's so busy. He never felt safe on it on his bike. So he would always take those other routes. But since this is opened, he finds himself on this route a lot. And he says what he likes about it is that it actually takes you right through the heart of the neighborhood. I mean, this is like the main street of a neighborhood. And so he loves that it takes you to that. We just passed a grocery store and there's a little park here. And up here are some more businesses. So it's not avoiding the places he wants to go. It actually takes him right to the places he wants to go. Yeah, so I feel totally safe riding this. I'm going at decent speed. I wouldn't want to go too quickly on here because it's a busy urban street and I want to be a good citizen like everybody else. There are nice little transitions here along the cross streets. And what's interesting on this is we're about to hit into more of a commercial area. So the ice cream shop is here. This took us very quickly. It's so direct, I didn't have to deal with all the nonsense of the other routes. I just came straight where I wanted to go. So that was so much more direct, so much simpler and so much easier than those other two routes. So wow, actually quite a bit of difference for for not a very long distance. Okay, the last route, that is the cycle track. Here are the numbers. The distance was 1.52 kilometers, so much shorter than the other ones, just like us, directly to the ice cream shop. 3 minutes, 55 seconds, almost twice as fast as that multi-use pathway. For pleasantness, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. And for livable city, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. This is more than just a cycle track. I would say this is almost a complete street. You know, my city talks about complete streets a lot, meaning complete for everybody. People on foot, people on bikes, people in cars. Complete meaning everyone can use it safely and efficiently. We talk about a lot. We don't have a lot. This might be the closest street we have in my city to being a complete street. So that's why I gave it a 9 out of 10. And you can see on this route how it just takes you places. Like it's right where I need to go. A ton of destinations. There were grocery store along there, there are restaurants, there were ice cream shops, there were massage parlors, there was a cannabis shop, everything you might want along that route. So this is really great that way too. It's definitely a little bit busier than the other routes, so there's more cars around, but I didn't feel unsafe. I feel pretty protected because I'm away from pedestrians and cars, which is better than the other two routes. So overall, it was a pretty good experience. Okay, there we go. 3 different routes to the same place, and this was a pretty interesting test. I found it really interesting. I hope you did too. I think my biggest takeaway from this is the benefits of a complete street, a street that not only caters to cars, because we have plenty of those, but also makes it easy for cyclists and pedestrians to get around efficiently, safely, and quickly. It just makes a huge difference. I mean, those other routes were fine, and I think if you didn't really care about making your city better, you could just say, cyclists, you're fine. Use that multi-use pathway, use those side streets. But I think this really illustrates how much better things can be. So I want to say thanks to Alastair for sharing this idea and letting me steal it. And I hope you got something out of it too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. And a quick shout out before I go to all the people listed here who contributed to this channel in the last month via Super Thanks. It's the first time I've used the Super Thanks feature. I had no idea what to expect when I put it up, and I'm kind of blown away by all the people who contributed. It means a lot. It really is motivating and keeps this channel going. So thank you to all of you. And if you want to contribute, look for the button below the video. And thanks everyone. Let's keep this thing moving. Thanks everybody.